Morning, Abe. Happy New Year.
Hey, happy New Year, Matt. Good morning.
Morning. Yeah, I like your optimist.
There we go. We're both of that. We both of that.
New year, and I think we're both actually on the same page of being optimistic this year. And I think and I say that because we've been on the same page and not so optimistic other years. So I think it feels good. To,
Yeah, totally. But yeah, it's good to start the new year. It feels like it's already started, but in real estate, it feels like it started a little later. Maybe we enjoy the holidays a little longer, knowing that the busy season's coming.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if
So
it was
yeah,
the
so it's
dates of the
good.
new year of the holidays that made them go by quicker for some reason. I think people needed longer to recover from them because of that. It just kind of went by quick. People are like, I need a little more time to get into the new
Right,
year this year. Yeah. At
right,
least that's the
right.
sentiment I'm feeling from people. Yeah.
Totally. But the new year is off with a bang. A
Yeah.
lot of things going on in real estate, right? A lot of headlines, a lot
Yeah.
of meetings with our agents, a lot of people wondering what's going to happen this year. Is it going to be a better year, a worse year? What are
Yeah.
rates going to do? All kinds of things. So it's good to get on here and maybe talk about some of that and anything
Yeah.
that's
I
going
think I
on.
think I think they're the last 3 years we've been at 4 million in sales, and I was looking back at predictions, right, for the last few years. And um, not to pick on Lawrence Yun, the National Association of Realtors chief economist, but uh, basically since 2022, since the market shifted, when he gave predictions for 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, uh, every prediction he made, he missed pretty bad, except for one, which was, I think it was 2023, where he said the interest rates by the end of the year would be at a certain percentage rate, like 6.3, and it hit. Like at the end of the year, the rates were like at 6.2 or so that was, but everything else was, and it aired on the side of optimism, right? And I think that it's there is a tendency when you're kind of inside the industry to promote optimism, right? And I think that's where you and I sometimes differed from the industry, and some of our agents sometimes didn't even like that. They wanted to hear kind of more a hopeful outlook. And I think our message has always been, you know, you can't lie to people in leadership positions, in our opinion, or tell people what they want to hear. Um, but I think that this year, once again, a lot of optimism. Lawrence Yun predicted, 17% or so, or up as far as home sales again this year. And I hope so. But that's not, I don't think, why we're optimistic. I think we're optimistic because we think it's a really good time to build more than ever right now, right? Um, so
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like again, Lawrence Yun as well as like the banks who predicted different interest rate bands and where they might be, middle of the year, end of the year. I think everyone's been somewhat wrong, and that's why, I know the heading says 2026 predictions, but it's not a winning game to be in those predictions, right? In a lot of ways, there's very few people that get them right. Actually, and a lot of times that's luck, right? It's hard to be consistently right about things, and so yeah, but what I've been really proud of us on is really, again, getting the right hope, not over hope, not over hype, giving the right, again, direction maybe for our company, and then also people who are asking what maybe to do in the real estate business to get ahead of what's coming. I feel like we've been pretty decent at that, and then behind the scenes, of course. What I've been proud about too is we've been preparing for the worst, right? Ever since we started Circa,
right.
and it's feeling, again, probably now more than before. I'm feeling great about that. I feel like the fruits of that are now kind of bearing fruit for us, and where we're at as a company, where we're at as a team, even internally, where our agents are at, headspace wise. I think it's been really awesome to see. So
Yeah.
really proud of what we've been able to do up until 2025, and super excited for what we'll do in 2026.
Yeah. Well, I think you know, one of the disciplines, I think, besides the fiscal discipline, was also the discipline of trying not to just follow in line with the normal real estate brokerage playbook and saying like, here we're going to do these types of trainings and these, saying let's question the value of a lot of the things that brokerages have been traditionally offering, and it forced us to innovate by that discipline, and I think that's where you know um, I don't want to segue into that yet, but the post AI world, being able to feel like we're now in a position now to see where not that AI is going to be our value, but AI is going to change the landscape of value, what agents offer. And so
That's
being able
right.
to that post AI world, we talked about it, but there was broker start in the post Zillow era, right? Which gave them an advantage that they knew that exposure was no longer the value, right? There's no way of holding and keeping listings, and that's the value. Kind of, we have this trap. You have to come to us for the listings. The listings were out there. The market data was out there. So the value had to become. You saw people starting to do more staging, more higher end photos, more discussions about negotiation and how to have conversations, all the different value that agents started to have to bring, because exposure was off the table now as far as any differentiator for people, right? Zillow kind of flattened that. And AI is now going to flatten the knowledge gaps. There's not going to be, before it was like we had the inventory, we control the inventory, then we control the knowledge and the expertise. AI is going to flatten that out now. And so now it's like the post AI world. We feel like we're fortunate that we're building in a post AI world, so we know what we need to guide our agents towards the value they need to bring. And I think the DNA of an organization is it's hard to change. And I think our DNA is just developing. Even though we've had great agents for many years doing great job, traditional great agents and agents who are really innovating themselves. But I think it's just we're now at a place where we're ready to really build and really support with the new landscape that's going to be here. And that's, I think, where our optimism really is rooted in, is that optimism.
Yeah, totally. When you said that the other day when we were talking, it really struck a chord with me because it did kind of almost like put a framework to all the things we've been feeling intuitively, things we're experiencing with agents and the struggles that they're facing, even in terms of like their identity as a real estate agent. Like, what is my value prop? What am I doing out here? Am I just opening doors? Am I a relationship master, or something like that? Or what is it? And there has been some incredible shifts, right? Like you just described. And it's kind of fun right now knowing that we haven't like fully put like pillars in the ground on this, other than like, hey, good people, right? That's number one, right?
Right.
High expertise, and then just complete like true value driven versus, hey, we're going to teach our agents how to set really good traps over here. Here's all the things you need to say so that there's higher chances of conversion over here, right?
Right.
That it truly has been a be good, be great at what you do, and then let's see where the rest fall, right? And not to say that expertise or knowledge in real estate and those things, and working on your craft and honing how you communicate isn't important. It's absolutely important. I'm not saying that it's not, but that things start and flow out of a desire to serve the customer, and do a great job for them, become a real estate expert, rather than just trap as many commissions as you can, and
Right.
and
What do you-
generate for that purpose.
Yeah, there's going to be kind of a flight to humanness, right? Like people are going to want to have the best humans working with them because it creates higher trust, and people that actually have instinct taste, real knowledge that AI is not going to be able to replace with the interaction with people. And I think that's where, the questions that an average client has for the average realtor can now be answered with like a realtor GPT, right? Like there's not going to be like, hey, I need you because I don't understand this. Like most people are going to be able to understand it pretty quickly. That's the thing, is like the AI, if one thing it's going to do, it's going to really decrease the knowledge gaps, right, between people. And not like knowledge gaps in general, knowledge gaps in specific moments, right? Like if I want to learn all I want to learn about something, I can become an expert in it pretty quickly, as far as what the average, not expert, I can become solid in the knowledge, right, that like an average person would know in that industry. And it's even in the medical field, right? Like they found research where that ChatGPT or those type of AIs can actually diagnose better if the doctor's not involved as a middle person, meaning the doctor brings their own bias into the questioning and prompting, and it actually diagnoses like at a higher clip than doctors. And if doctors actually ruin it a little bit when they get involved because they bring their prompting bias. So anyway, not to go on that, but the point is that AI is pretty spectacular as far as transferring knowledge to people. And so
It
the
really
knowledge,
is, you know, because us too. Yeah, as brokers, right? Like we've said this kind of jokingly in meetings or maybe just in conversations. You know, if an agent has a question for us, it's hey, you know, let me get on Google right now. Let me Google that for you, right? How to make a PDF, you know.
right?
And so maybe sometime in our past, you know, brokers' value to the agents was that they just know more things than me about like stuff, right? How to make
Right,
PDFs,
right.
how to use Canva or something, you know, and you know, I think probably you and I looked at each other like intuitively, it's not really our thing, but let's help you with that, right?
Yeah.
So even in a post AI world, what value do we bring as brokers? Well, yeah, definitely. There's a lot more you can do by just searching, you know, or having a conversation with ChatGPT. But really, the value we want to bring is development of agents, right? New opportunities for agents, hopefully pointing agents in the right way. You know, and when deals happen and things fall apart, that we're there to try to figure out with them what the right solutions are. And
Well, that's
those
it.
more,
Yeah.
those more important things, the things that we're excited about and great at, you know, and but again, maybe not helping you how to figure out a PDF or, you know, loading your clients into a CRM or something like that, right? So
Right. Well, and I think it's the high trust, the support, the care. I think that's what you look to leadership and people that are guiding you, right? Is that you just, it's that extra layer of trust that you can have, right? And that's where I think, you know, I think that's definitely going to be the value proposition that clients are going to want to have is, look, I just really know this person is, I can find out a lot of these answers myself, but this person is really going to guide me, and I have high trust in this individual, and they have the little nuance that AI may not have. Like they have that extra level of you know, expertise, knowledge, know-how. You know, it's a little bit more nuanced and not so ready available online, right? Like about a neighborhood or about a specific type of investment transaction or a specific type of, you know, just there's a lot of knowledge that does get put through experience, but it's not like the base level knowledge that can be synthesized now. Experience can be synthesized pretty quickly now, but like high niche, very good, you know, niche or local or some sort of knowledge in an area, I think that's going to be harder to synthesize because then it gets blurry and muddy because there's a lot of different opinions, and you want to find someone that you trust and feel like, you know, has your interests in mind, not just a broad.
Yeah, it reminds me of a conversation I was having with a client of Circa, you know, just recently, and this client of ours, investor, is hyper focused on investing in a certain city in LA, and I think currently owns like, I don't know, 20 plus acres of land in a very dense city, really high end city. But her advice to us was focus, hyper focus, know every home, know every person, every like story behind the sale, right? Know which streets are the good streets and which ones are not, and which houses on that street are the preferred houses. And then maybe
Yeah.
you could find some success. And if you broaden your net too much, you'll know a little about everything, but you won't know enough to find success deeply, you know. And so you might make mistakes over here, you might make a bad investment over there, rather than when you hyper focus in an area, you will almost always find success because you know it so well and you know when to say no and yes. So yeah, like that'd be prediction number one for me. Is I think this year people have to really double down on local area knowledge and relationships within their local area, so that they can have the closest ear to the ground in terms of that neighborhood, that market, that then they can turn and.
Oh. Hey, Abe, I lost you a minute. I can't hear you. Is it me or is it just technical difficulties? I can't hear you. Can somebody else hear?
Yeah.
There, I got you now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so what was I saying? I think, yeah, so the first prediction is doubling down on that, right? And become the area expert in your locale so that you can turn, or in turn, take that knowledge and serve your clients even better. I mean, how many times have we been asked, hey, do you have anything off market in this area or that area? And so deal access or some type of edge in getting ahead, in a deal is what clients are really, really hoping for a lot of times. That's why it pushes them to sometimes work or ask the listing agent, hey, can I work with you? And just to see if there's an advantage they can get over others. But I think more and more as we, hyper focus on areas and become experts in areas, we'll naturally be able to offer that advantage to clients on the buy side as well. So that's my first prediction. I think we have to get really good at that, double down on that. Like you said, it's because AI cannot, at the moment, right, replicate that or provide that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we're seeing just the way it's going on is the shift to back to like your listing, your lead, right? Which is what traditionally for many years was real estate, and controlling the inventory was the most important thing. Listing to last kind of thing, you list you last, I think is definitely, I think, part of that, right? Part of that whole thing is like being the person who is generating, finding the inventory, is going to be as important, if not more important than ever, I think, going forward. And I think that's, the earned value is what I'm most excited. I think it's going to be an earning economy again, not a trapping economy, right? Like not where we're trapping business through online stuff and gimmicky stuff. Or I think we're going back to like that earning through the trust, right? Earning through referrals. Because I think that AI is going to make things more noisy before it gets clear, right? Like it's going to be more noise, and it's as soon as AI came out, I think the majority of agents rushed to how do I generate business with this, in a sense of like how do I build an even more sophisticated mousetrap? How do I start cold calling people with my voice even though it's not me? How do I get it to write? All these kind of inhuman ways of generating business, and I feel like it's going to be I think that if you don't sense the nausea that people are going to feel towards AI spamming them already, it's one thing to have like, so when email came along, CAN Spam Act passed unanimously through Congress, fastest bill passed since declaring war in World War II, right? I mean, people did not want to get spam, right? Now we're getting spam. I don't know about you, but I get spam calls, ridiculous spam calls on my phone and voicemails. And now it's like, I thank God that Apple's new operating system allows you to like click a bunch of voicemails to delete them, because now I can clear my voicemails that are just spam voicemails now. But I think AI should not be used to create more elaborate ways of spamming people. It should be to take care of operations for you, so you as a human have more time to go out there. Like double down on your humanness, human interaction, and let AI do everything else. And I think that's where,
Yes, it's funny. I think if you ask most people, hey, do you like getting marketing calls and spam emails? I think they would say no. Right? I don't know anyone that gets joy out of like kind of like taking those calls and hearing what they have to say, or reading through a bunch of emails and seeing what is going on, that way, in terms of like the marketing emails we get, right? What kind of deals are out there? What's this person selling me? I want to buy it all, right? Usually we're pretty repulsed by it, at to say the very least. And so it's always interesting to me though when we come to like the table to talk about, hey, how are we going to market this year? Like, how are we going to, do more volume this year? How are we going to grow the business this year? It's like, well, I'm going to get on I'm going to do this more or that more. And it feeds into the things that we actually as consumers hate to experience,
Right.
And so I think, maybe another prediction this year is that we're going to have to really get creative and reevaluate our methods, to again become more human and to find more creative ways to bring value to people in a conversation, through a relationship, through an email or call or text. Again, not tweak it so it tricks the algorithm and gets to your inbox better, but actually provides some value. You know,
Right.
yeah, and there's varying ranges of that, right? I think I shared on our company Slack a hack that I recently experienced that I thought was really clever, but and kind of got me the right way, right?
Mm.
But
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
nonetheless was a hack.
Right.
And this person impersonated themselves as a potential like agent who has a buyer for a property that Circa has listed. So we entertained the conversation, and she wouldn't give up a phone number to get on the phone with. She said, "Hey, no, I'm on Zoom right now. Jump on this link and we could talk on Zoom." Well, that Zoom link turned out to be again, a hack attempt. It wasn't a Zoom link; it was a link to a nefarious site. So there's that end of it, right? Where it's blatant, it's fraudulent. They're trying to do something very, very harmful. And then the other side of it really is like, hey, what can I say that's clever that would give them just a little bit of interest, that respond to me at least, right?
Right.
And or not unsubscribe to me right away. So,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think,
yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, AI should be the ultimate assistant to you, a way of helping yourself augment things for yourself and improving in certain ways and kind of hacking, not hack like you're talking about, but like, like the biohacking, but like the business hacking, like figure out ways to make yourself more efficient in what you're doing on the back end. And that's what we're
Yeah.
all about, what we're doing. And that's what I talked about with the post AI world, is being able to really build our systems and support and everything we're doing with that as a back end. But
Okay.
it should enable us to be more human and not less, and not use
Right.
it for evil as well, for sure. Um,
No,
and I think
absolutely.
that's where, and I think we could kind of segue into like talking about the kind of big real estate right now, because I think that there is sort of like, when you talk about, I don't want to say nefarious, but people who, some of the things being exposed right now, of some of the big companies fighting and the lawsuits. There's a ton of lawsuits going on, and Zillow, Compass, NAR still has some lingering things. There's actually somebody seeking to overturn the NAR lawsuits and has a really good, compelling argument for that. So someone, a leading person in the industry, that pretty smart guy, his name's Rob Hahn, he was saying that, he can see that there's a chance that we might overturn the NAR lawsuit, and all the stuff we've been doing with buyer agreements and all this stuff for the last, year will go away, or 2 years. I don't know if that will happen, but there are some pretty good arguments that the settlement was not sound legally. So, but that being said, and then the Zillow being sued by the same lawyers for some of the NAR lawsuits that are pretty big firms. They added RICO charges in there, or RICO accusation, not charges, because that'd be a criminal case, but RICO statute. They've cited RICO violations, like conspiratorial type stuff, like that they get them, organized crime with. And they're pretty compelling because there is some deceitful practices that have been going on with those type of online leads, right? Like where buyers don't really understand, they're not calling the listing agent, and then the person taking that call sometimes will mislead them, or not mislead them, maybe in a subtle way mislead them to thinking that they're the person they should be talking to about this listing, right? And that's been caught. And then there's been a lot of times where what's the most openly blatant thing is that Zillow's been telling people, you can't get leads anymore if you don't give us your mortgages, right? If you don't bring us, and there's people that recorded them coming to their office and saying, hey, I can't tell you this over the phone, but here's what you need to do. And so that's where the RICO stuff probably comes in, where it's been pretty, clandestine and intimidation, almost, of saying, hey, you're not going to get this anymore if we don't get this. So anyhow, I don't know. This is all allegedly, right? I don't know myself firsthand of this stuff, but that's what I'm reading in these articles. And so I do think that that's going to be something that's going to come under fire. And this guy's prediction was actually that, and again, this is just out there, this is just to discuss, this is what we're seeing, and people that know that we're not taking an opinion or stance on this, but they are saying that if they do, the biggest thing in the preliminary hearings that happen with this case is if they say that Zillow, like there is a breach of fiduciary duties on the agent side, like they establish that, but they say it's not Zillow's fault. Like Zillow doesn't owe the fiduciary duty, the brokerages do. So even though there is in this Zillow world a breach of fiduciary duty from the agents, because one, the agents aren't disclosing necessarily the 40% referral fee to Zillow or whatever it might be. The agents are pointing them to lenders because Zillow's telling them they have to, and they're not disclosing that I'm actually being incentivized with these leads to give them there. So there's that. So there's a fiduciary duty issue there. And if that's determined it is, and then they say, but it's not your fault, Zillow, it's these agents' fault, it's brokerages, then the lawsuit's going to turn on the brokerages who are doing Zillow. And so,
yeah, it's worrisome a little bit. But my comment on this is, I think we've all heard, I'm sure, as we've been doing business, things that have not settled well for us, in our stomachs and our souls. There has been business practices written into training manuals that if the consumer saw, we'd be pretty embarrassed, to say the least, and maybe again even be contrary to what we're putting out there, at face value. In some ways, I'm really appreciative of these things being called out, because I think we've felt them intuitively, and maybe we've participated in some of those things. And right after we said a certain thing or use a certain tactic, we felt, kind of in our stomachs, like, it doesn't sit right, doesn't
Right.
seem fully transparent or honest. And I know I've had that in my career, and I think what's been, again, the part that I appreciate is that some of this is coming to light. We're having to challenge it, and face it, and come clean with it in ways, and find business practices that are better, where we can still, earn our living, but do absolutely right by the client. And again, I think it's a very interesting time where we see these cases happening, but also interesting for us on just our own broker level,
Right.
to really examine things and wonder, are these the best practices? Are these the things that treat the the client the best and give them the best service, and then B, that sit well with us, and our ethics and the character that we're trying to uphold and keep strong. So I think this shakeup is great, and it's kind of interesting to watch it play out in the national stage or even the world stage, because these are really big companies that are doing, they're multi-billion-dollar companies. So I think the conversations I've appreciated with you, Matt, and just talking about Circa is, okay, what are the things that we need to examine, versus point fingers outside, and what are the ways we can get better, and get ahead of this as these challenges are happening. I think that's been really interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where, the whole idea of the Zillow, fighting the clear cooperation policy, and like the whole thing is to pretend that real estate is like just like any other business, like car sales or any sort of like high-end luxury jewelry sales or whatever it might be, is disingenuous at its face, because there wouldn't be a need to have a license, right? There wouldn't be a need to have fiduciary duty and have statutes and civil code that talks about our duties and to even the public, right? Those are the law. That's not just the realtors. That's the real estate is organized by our state governing bodies, because it's an important, industry to guide a really important decision with very important and crucial outcomes to people's financial well-being, right, and their lives. And so to pretend that it's just like, hey, these sellers know what they're doing, they should be able to choose from my slick marketing plan, to say like, stay out of my marketing plan, I should just be able to do this because the seller wants it. Well, it's like, that's the whole point. You also have to have fiduciary duty, though, to make sure that you're informing them that maybe this isn't the best decision for you, and you can do this, but it's probably not. That's why we have to say to people, you can not be on the MLS, but it's probably better to be on the MLS, just so you know. And that's why we have those agreements. And so when you're putting that in a salesperson that's trying to use that for bad, like saying, hey, I want to kind of double end this thing, or I want to try to just only work with my friends, and that ends up being contrary to the interest of the seller, it's not in their best interest, then there's a fiduciary duty issue there. And I think it's a matter of time until there's huge fiduciary duty lawsuits, class action lawsuits against any brokerage who tries to go out to the public and say, we should put your listing private on our private network. And I know you can have it, everybody can see your listing, or only our people can see your listing. And how do you convince that it's only good for your people to see that listing? And so I think that, you can make all these arguments, and they've got some slick talkers that you listen to and they go, oh, that makes sense, but when it comes back down to it, the truth is that if you go to court, they're going to treat, the reason residential commercial is a little bit different is that in residential, they treat the client like what they call an unsophisticated party. So therefore, we're held more liable if there's a sort of, they didn't understand something, because you can say, hey, they signed it. They said, yeah, but they're not that sophisticated to understand everything they're signing all the time. So did you explain this to them? Did you, this? So, to treat like these sellers that they're sophisticated enough to make a decision based on your 3-point marketing plan or whatever it's called, right? And that they know how to make that decision well without being explained everything and knowing what the best practice in the industry. And if you bring up 10 realtors that aren't interested in your marketing plan on a stand, they'll say, yeah, that's not a good practice. That's not good. We know exposure is what helps demand or drive demand, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll get off that soapbox, but the point is that I just think it's like you've got these big companies who are really kind of, through these lawsuits, are going to start showing some little bit of ugliness, I'm assuming, if they go to fight, that we'll see is not pro-consumer. And I think I'm a little bit optimistic just to see how that shakes out this year, because again, I do think it's a good time for us to be leading this charge of transparency, honesty, what's best for the consumer, high trust, high value, and I think that's what I'm excited about. I think pretty excited about the people we have on our team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Just even these last 2 weeks of 2026, I feel like that had some really kind of hard conversations, or hard to hear conversations with people that have experienced again a nefarious listing agent who wanted to double land a deal, and left money on the table for their seller,
right?
But took a buyer that again they would have made more money on because they were able to represent both sides. I've heard that already now, and then myself dealing with an off-market listing that would love to share with the world, but it's off market, and just trying to educate the seller a little bit more on the benefits of putting it on the market, and getting it out there to the world, because you never know who's going to see it and who shares it, and where the buyer's going to come from, and then the buyer may come from again a source that we're not even aware of, right, or we're not thinking about strategically. And so all those conversations truly, and it's funny to see that in real time, and how you experience, this isn't the best for this situation, and so you're absolutely right. When you look at the headlines with those lenses, and you see people doubling down on why exclusive private listings are the way of the future, and it's best for the client in all kinds of ways, it just feels like it feels really thin, to say the very least, especially when you're seeing it and experiencing it in real time, right? So I'm excited to see what happens, in our industry as a result of these things. And then, you and I, we're always thinking about our kind of neck of the woods, our brokerage, and what we need to do, to stay ahead of some of the stuff and make sure that we have the best practices in place. I'm really excited here too. But the maybe next prediction I could throw out there is, brokerages will have to really re-examine what they do, irregardless of what's going on in the big news, and provide an accounting in some ways of what is pro-consumer,
right,
and what they're doing to become more and more pro-consumer, rather than more and more pro-brokerage or pro-agent or pro-industry. So I think we're up for it. We feel really good about that. We like what's happening in the industry in that way.
Yeah. Well, I think that the whole idea of a house of cards, right? Those type of things are when people have to start doing things to explain away, or to cover up, or to patch holes that they're making with these practices, and it just starts building this kind of web of practices that aren't really the best. And then it takes, you look at the Enron thing, right? A lot of people don't even probably know what that is. Some of our agents that are younger don't know what that is. Pretty large corporations, pretty large things can be brought down by practices that start to become too difficult to continue to maintain and keep the, I don't want to say lies or these are, but the web of things that you have to maneuver to do to keep things, the facade of this isn't bad, this is okay, and just sort of having to keep building on top of that. And again, I don't know what's going to happen, but I just see some of that, forming here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Anyhow, all right. But what does that mean for? I guess we should probably wrap up here. I don't know. Any more thoughts? Any
Yeah.
predictions, Dave, for?
No, again, I think it's going to be a great year because of all the reasons we said. Mm, we can't predict mortgage rates fully. We can't predict how many transactions up or down from 4 million there'll be this year.
Right.
Um, but but I think it's going to be an amazing year in our industry. Technology is making bounds right within our industry.
Yeah.
Technologies that don't matter are falling off the wayside. Right.
Yeah.
Um, People are starting to realize and understand that this isn't going away. This market
Yeah.
that we're in, and that either we have to figure out how to get great in this market, or we have to walk away. And that's kind of, again, another sad part of the industry is we are seeing more agents walk away, which we totally understand, and feel, again, a little bit like, man, I hope it doesn't deteriorate the industry. But at the same token, feeling a little bit excited that some of the players we knew that shouldn't be, in the industry, and like maybe we need to up the game on how hard it is to get a license even, right? That some of those people are exiting because this isn't easy money, right? This isn't an easy get your license and make a couple 100,000, type of business, because the market isn't making it that easy. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That my prediction around that would be that it's the earners are going to win, not the trappers, in the next 2 years. In the next few years. That's what I'm excited about.
There's some
So,
double meanings in those words.
yeah, earn
But
the
yeah,
business, not trap the business. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. That's
But
right.
and I one thing also too that I think a lot of people are kind of worried about the affordability and sort of like an existential questions of AI of asset values and things. And this is not completely directly related, but I just saw an article in the Wall Street Journal, and I know we've all heard about this wealth transfer, but the numbers kind of are staggering again to me. And so it's saying that over the next decade, 1.2 million individuals with net worths of 5 million or more are projected to pass down more than 38 trillion globally of real estate to their heirs. So 38 trillion of, of real estate, just real estate assets being passed down generationally in the next 10 years. So, I mean,
Yeah.
what that's going to do is it's going to create a liquidity in the market of these transferring of properties, people either wanting to, I don't want this, probably going to make moves of those properties. But the point is, there's just, because it's not like all huge estates. I mean, the article does focus on some people that have like $500 million of real estate holdings, right? But we're talking about people that might just have a $2 million house here, a $500,000 house here, and some apartment, things. And so there's a lot of transferring, and when transfers happen, sales happen, things happen. I just think that we're going to have a healthy market for the next 10 years, even just with that alone.
Right. Right. And I would hate to frame it in a way where it's just like, hey, be ready for some transactions, or like create transactions.
Right.
But you and I have both been kind of preaching, be an advisor, right? Be a
Right.
professional advisor in the same way a financial advisor is to like a family, right? That the real estate may or may not be sold, but it may be repositioned, it may be refinanced and multiply the equity into other properties there.
Right.
It may mean paring things down to one property. It might be providing some property management for your clients. And so, more than ever, I think advisory or advisor is really a huge part of what we do, versus just being sales agent, and helping conduct sales. So I think, another prediction that's going to become more and more, like you said, over the next 10 years, a huge part of what we do. And it's going to feel a little bit sometimes, a little, again, not fully like, there's not going to be a lot of satisfaction in it financially sometimes, it seems. But these are the things that we do to plant seeds and make investments in what we do, so that later it bears some fruit and that we will be able to collect some revenue from it. And so I personally am in the thick of that, just even setting up our own kind of family trust, and all that, and positioning our assets the right way. But also I know that my conversations with friends and clients has been a lot of that. My parents want to pass this down what's the best way to do this, and I don't really like where these properties are located. What do you think my options are, elsewhere, where there's some good investment happening,
Right.
throughout the state or throughout the country or throughout the world, right? And being able to have some value to add to that conversation and making that part of your business, I think is huge. So, I think traditionally, and again, if we're talking like, I don't want to say it. So maybe more like self-interest ways of doing this was like, no, you could totally, you sell this and then buy this great listing I have, right?
Right.
Again,
Right.
may not serve the goal or the purpose that the client has, but it helps you quote unquote like double land or trap some revenue. Again, I think you got to stay away from that in some ways in upper game so that we can provide true value there in an advisory way. And so yeah, I
100%.
think because AI is out there, because there's just even the internet out there, a lot of that stuff does not work. But I think I'm hearing sometimes people are frustrated, right? That's not working anymore, right? We
Yeah.
should change the rules back. And it's like, no, I think we need to embrace what's here and what's coming, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
super excited about that.
yeah, no, when people feel honest guidance, when somebody feels that you really have their best interests at heart and you do a competent job, I mean, they will tell everybody about you. So, I mean, I don't want to make it a self-serving thing, but the truth is when you do a great job for people and they sense that, they feel like, hey, other people seemed a little more self-interested in how they approach things, right? And you get the kind of people who appreciate that and really value that kind of trust and that high trust. They could then that's where business grows, and it's not for the sake of business growing, but it does. That's where business grows. And I mean, a lot of our people know this, and it's how they built their careers. But I think a lot of people still need to hear it and trust in that, because there's a lot of temptation, a lot of people selling you this, like, oh, I got leads over here, I got this lead, and this, and it's like, this. We all want more business and to grow a business. That's what we're in business for. But to do it a way that does, like you always talk about, like the money chasing you rather than you chasing the money, is always going to play out better for your own life and wealth. Personally, I've seen it play out plenty of people, right? You rarely see the people, whether it's a business that tries to inflate its kind of narrative to get like a quick stock win and pump and dump, or whether it's a person that's got this scheme to get a bunch of leads and take fleece and put as much money as they can. You never see those people later on in life feeling good, right? They're not rewarded for that typically.
Absolutely, absolutely. And maybe we can, maybe the last thing I'll say is, hey, if you're interested or want to kind of at the beginning of the year talk about how you can grow your biz into this, or to kind of up your game into this, Matt and I, as well as Steve Robbins, who've joined our team, we're up for it. We're up to meet. We're up to meet one-on-one. We're up to meet, all of us with you. So please let us know how we can help you in that way. And we got some cool meetings coming up over the next few months. I think that are themed more towards this.
Yeah.
So super excited to start the year. I was gone for 3 weeks, but I'm back on the saddle. I'm really excited to come back from vacation and tackle this year together. So yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. Look forward to it. All right, guys. Happy 2026. Let's do it. See you.
All right. See you, man.
See you.